Hello, welcome to another 2D game art for developers video. So let's go back to our previous scene. I'm going to do a little bit of house cleaning first because I think I've been basically filling the scene up with lots of elements which are not grouped together. So let's call this sun. And because I just want to get this out of the way so that we have a little bit of space in our scene so that we can do more work. And of course all of this together makes up the bird. And of course the other thing is, now that we have it organized, we can select just one layer and the whole bird is selected, and I can move the bird over here, resize it, while holding down shift so that the bird resizes. No, even with shift held down it doesn't resize uh, in a uniform manner. See, I can still squash it. So the easiest way probably would be to go down here, look at the width. It's like 60 points, so let's halve that. Now if I do it like this, you notice that the bird squishes again. That's because you don't have the aspect ratio. This, if you click on this little chain link icon, the width and height are connected. So now if I go to 30 points, you will notice, yeah, that goes like that. And we'll move this bush over here. Now let's say we want to add a man or the rounded rectangle icon tool. Let's select a good skin tone, something like say something like this, and I'm going to simply draw a rounded rectangle. Now that doesn't look like anything, does it? But you can go to this little red dot on the corner and drag out to increase the uh, rounding of the corners, and now you get a vaguely face looking shape. Let's add a couple of eyes, and I'm going to click away so that nothing is selected, so that I can change the color here. Let's switch to black, and I'm going to switch to circle tool, and do the eyes. How about some eyebrows? Well, the eyes are slightly uneven. That's because I drew two different circles instead of using our old friend duplicate, which is what we should have done. I could have done duplicate or hold alt. Oops. I need a little bit more space so that I can see what I'm doing. So you keep it in line and go. And now let's do the rounded rectangle tool again, something like this. Now for some reason, okay, so I dragged it out. I can see the shape, but I don't see the shape over here on the screen. That's because the rounded rectangle appears below the face shape. So if I move it up here, no, like let's, there we go. Now you can see the rectangle shape. Let's let's zoom in on the face. So okay, that we can work closer, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and again you can take the shape and go to the corner to round it out a little bit more. Now you don't have to drag out that red dot. You could always go up here and you have the corner percentage. You can change the value there as well. So let's say now we have our eyebrow, and let's drag that into place and do an alt drag, holding down shift to get this one into place. And how about some hair? Is to use composite shapes because I wanted to cover composite shapes a little versatile tools that you will have when doing simple graphics. Let's say I draw one circle, duplicate that with Command D, drag it out, select the two. Okay, you see this uh, shape here where the two shapes combine. That's what I'm going for, but that's a little too big for my taste, the size of the shape. So let's go with something like this, and if we use subtract, okay, not subtract, we need intersect, which gives us the what is the intersection image from those two images. Now I bring it up here. Of course, again this has gone below the line, so what we'll do is we'll drag all of these together just down here, and there the guy has a little bit of hair. You can tweak this, adjust the size, drag it out a little bit, and then of course you duplicate it, flip it, move it to the other side, and then just adjust placement, and if necessary and you have some hair. And what's more, you can adjust how each side works, like you can doesn't look symmetrical, change one side to be smaller. You can play around till you get a hairstyle that you're happy with. Let's say we want to go with this. You can have the eyebrows be covered by the hair, or you can just drag the whole, select and drag the whole lot down, and you have the face. Now we need a nose. Let's go back to our skin tone. That's what happens when you have the background selected. So I'm actually going to lock the background layers. Like you can select certain layers like the ones you worked on that you don't need to be disturbed, and you lock those. And then I select, oops, apparently locking did not do anything there, so I have nothing selected now. Let's switch. It's actually a line, so I'm going to change the fill to none and set the stroke color to the skin tone, but I want this to be a little bit darker, so we'll come down here and select a slightly darker tone. Okay, and then we are going to draw another rounded rectangle. Let's say something like this, and we are going to go up here and change the uh, width on the stroke so that you get a thicker stroke, something like this, say. Okay, now I need to actually I need to change the uh, rounding again, so I'm just going to go up here and use 50% to get that. I'm going to duplicate this shape. I'll tell you why in a little bit, but let's duplicate this shape. Take the first one. I'm going to convert this to curves. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift to the node tool, select this top point, and up here you have actions for nodes, one of which is break curve. I'm going to break the curve and then drag and drop so that I select these three. No, drag and drop so that I can simply drag to select that area, and the first two nodes up here are now selected, and I'm going to delete, and you'll notice we get a nice nose shape by simply taking away a few points from the path. We put that in there and we have the nose. Now as to why I needed this one. Let's say the nose shape was too big, or let's start with something big, and we convert to curves. Then we switch to the node tool, select here. The other point is I could have not broken the curve here. I could simply have selected these two and deleted. But in Affinity Designer, the paths are usually closed paths. So if I did not break the curve, when I delete those 2 points, the path closes again and you get a shape which is not what you wanted. You could always go here, select this, and not close the curve, break the curve. It still looks the same, but if you go and drag, you will notice that the curve is now broken. It just stayed in the same spot. So you can then, since this point is selected, simply delete and you get the shape that you originally wanted. So you could do it both ways. Now the other thing that I wanted to touch upon is, now this nose is too big. I want to flatten it out. Okay, that worked. Sometimes though, if you, oh yeah, if you do something like this, let's say, instead of shortening it proportionately, I want to shorten it like this. You notice that the curve goes off now. The curve is slightly off. You can of course create a different type of nose with this by doing something like this. Just drag the point over here and you get a nice nose that way as well. but if you wanted the proportions right, you need to uh, if you want to shorten it without changing the curvature, then you need to have done the shortening at the outset itself before you converted this into a curve. Because for instance, now if you drag down like this, you notice that the curve on the edges remains the same. So that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, so now we need a mouth. Again, we go back to our friend composite shapes. Let's turn out of the stroke, go back to black for fill, take a circle, and I draw a circle, duplicate it, fill with red, say something like this. That might be a bit too bright. Resize it. And drag it down. Combine the two. And what we need is like we are going to use the divide tool. Nothing seemed to happen there, right? I click the tool, nothing happened, but if you look here, you see that you have now three shapes: a curve for the center part, a curve for the black upper part, and curve for the lower part. And if I drag this out, magic, you have just a shape here left over from what we were working on. So now let's say I want to do this, draw up here, and I'm going to select the lower part, well as this, and subtract. And now I can drag around the whole shape, group it, call it mouth, and at the same time let's put all this together. Here, right eye, left eye, head, and nose. Bring these down here, and now we just need to size the mouth, bring it in here, and we have a face. Of course, then we have to put all of this together and call it face. And if you zoom out a little bit, that face, okay, that might be okay in terms of size. If it is not, you can just select the face and obviously drag up or down to size it properly. Now we need a body. Where do we go? One easy option is our old friend, the rounded rectangle. We have red. Okay, let's say that's good enough. Okay, now body shapes, you can simply take the rounded rectangle shape and edit like this. You could also adjust the curvature and give him a more rounded body. It's totally up to you. And of course, now we need arms. Back to the rounded rectangle. But before we do that, let's switch back to the skin tone. And let's say I drag out something like this. And like that. But the guy needs to have sleeves, right? So how do we get the sleeves? Simple enough. We take a rectangle tool, switch to the red for the shirt or body, long sleeves or short sleeves. Let's say short sleeves. Divide. Nothing happened. But if we drag here, okay, apparently nothing really happened. We take this. We need to select this and the rectangle. And we divide. Okay, we got the curves here. Click out, drag this away, and now you have a arm with a sleeve. And obviously you can put it here, duplicate that to put it on this side. And if you want some variance, of course, you can do something like this. And like that. And there, a person is taking shape. You can use the same techniques to create uh, the legs and to complete the the person. And additionally, you can use the same techniques to create various different faces. You can change the face shape by simply changing the roundness, or by taking a circle and combining it with, say, a triangle to get a slightly different shape. The nose shapes can be made in so many different ways. Like you can create a nose, for example, like this. Take a rounded rectangle, let's zoom in a bit, adjust the curvature, duplicate, drag it out, rotate. That's one way to do it. That's the nose. Or you could take the original nose we created, which is here, duplicate that, let's drag it out and duplicate that again and flip it. Didn't we duplicate it? Apparently duplicated version is here. And combine the two. That's a nose. So there are multiple different ways that you can get a shape by simply taking a few simple shapes and combining them, or dividing them up, or removing a bit, and so on. And you can create a lot of different people simply by trying out different variations. So go ahead, have fun, and see how it all goes. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye.